Mauri nuku manawa mai te Mauri rangi. Ko te Mauri kei au he Mauri te pua. Ka pakaru mai te pō, tau mai te Mauri, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e. May the essence of the earth pulse within us. May the essence of the sky pulse within us. The essence resides within me, an ancient essence. As darkness shatters, let the dawn bring forth vitality amongst us all who have joined us this morning on this beautiful session that we have this morning. So firstly, I just wanted to thank those that have joined us today. No mai, whakatata mai, ngā manuhiri, no tapiti, no tata, whakatata mai runga I tēnei rangi mokopuna. He atāhua te rangi nei, he atāhua ngā mata e ki tēnei. Welcome and welcome to our beautiful session that we've got for you all today. I wanted to pay homage to those that have joined us, a special mention to Angie, Aimee, Tanya, Lindsay, Lily and Pavan for joining us here. We have some special guests that have joined us this morning from Canada, from overseas. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have such a good session that we've got today. And so what we've got before you is how we're going to run today is we've got Lindsay who will walk us through the research side of the mahi, followed by Penny who will give us a kōrero of the inner and outer work of the systems change and what it is that we'd like to explore. Following that, we will then go into a breakout room where we'll be able to join and connect with each other for a few moments, briefly with some questions that we'll have for you all to connect. We've got also some kōrero that we will have discussions alongside with Angie, Aimee and Tanya to talk about some kōrero that we will have about the conceptualize of the mahi that we talk about. We also have Mauri that we will talk about as well that Aimee will tap into. So we've got quite a few kaupapa in store for you this morning. Before we get into it, I'm going to hand the rākau kōrero over to Lindsay, who will walk you through some kōrero. Lindsay, kei a koe te wā.
Thank you, Riri. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Just give me a second to share the slides with you. So I'm here to welcome you to the research part of this process and project and to our session today. So we're gathering today in this series called Pushing the Boundaries of Public Sector Innovation. Welcome to those of you who have been with us before in one of our previous sessions. Welcome to those of you who are coming for the first time today. This is work that is originating in Canada with a couple of co-hosts, with some amazing co-hosts, including Penny, who's made this connection between us across the Pacific Ocean happen today. So thank you, Penny. And Lily, who's the other cycle co-host for this inner and outer work of transformation, of systems transformation. So I just wanted to give you a little, we are recording, you'll notice we started recording when Riri began. I just want to let you know that we will be sharing this recording out afterwards. And so if you wish to remain less visible when we're in our main room together, please feel free to keep your camera off, change your name to your first name only or to your initials if your first name is really recognizable. We won't be recording the breakout rooms, so those are, please join those fully. And then if you have any questions or concerns or anything like that about the research project or consent or anything like that, you can find Pavan in the chat and you can ask her any questions that you have about that. So as I said, Penny's going to explain this cycle that we're the third of series of 3 of this session that we're in right now. But I just wanted to orient you to this longer journey that we're on in this pushing the boundaries of public transformation space. So we're, I don't know, maybe 2/3 of the way through, and we'll share a little bit more about what's coming afterwards at the end of our session today. That's it, I think, from me, and I think I pass it to Penny now. Oh, here's a bunch of links, and Payvan will have shared the slide deck with you so you can find your way into any of the other places you might want to as part of this project. Over to you, Penny.
Awesome. Kia ora. Ana mihi nui kia koutou, ko Penny Hagan te koingoa. Lovely to see everybody. This is a really awesome merging of worlds of our normal practice foundations that we run monthly via the Co-Design Lab, and then this collaboration with our Canadian whānau around public sector transformation. So really exciting to have everyone coming together today. Just want to mihi to the folks that have been part of the bigger collaboration, like Ingrid and Serena, who have stayed with us through the previous two sessions and into today's Convergence one, which is really awesome. And I'm just going to give a little bit of context for us about what it was that we've been exploring in this mahi up until today, and then how we're going to ground into the conversation today, thanks to our fine friends, Angie, Aimee, and Tanya. And thanks, Riri, for landing us into this space already. So I'll just give a little bit of context to this collaboration and what we've been doing and what we're going to explore today. So as Lindsay said, this is the third of 3 sessions that we've held. And what we've been trying to explore through these processes in this time together, they're really short moments of time, so we could be spending years together, but we've just been dipping in to a conversation to understand when we're talking about trying to participate in transforming systems or being involved in that kind of mahi. And for us, that means how do we shift the system so that it prioritizes equity, it prioritizes place, it surfaces what matters to people and planet, and we orientate our resources around those things. That's actually a kind of a repatterning of the system. We're trying to change things that are structural. We're trying to change processes and policies, ways things are measured, ways things are valued. That's all part of that mahi, part of that work. But we're also tangled up in history, in our own roles in it, in mindsets and heart sets, as Ingrid would say. We're in relationships and at a very human level as well as that kind of structural system scale. So kind of hard and soft systems right down to our personal level. And so that tangling together can be quite an interesting space to be working in. It means you're touching on the big levels from a historic perspective. For us, that's always around the impacts of colonization, where we are in the Pacific and Aotearoa, and those big things, as well as our personal relationships to each other and our practices. So how do we understand what it means to hold that work? And so this series has been about exploring how some people are approaching that. How do you explore that relationship between structural and kind of personal systems change work? So we've done that through 3 sessions. The first one with Ingrid and Derek, and the imagery that was used there was around energy, fires, and bees, if that sort of gives you a sense of the diversity of the ways that we've explored it. The second session, we really grounded in experiences coming out of Canada, and today it's just a real privilege to be grounding this conversation and experiences coming out of Aotearoa. And we're specifically going to do that through learning a little bit more about a particular learning infrastructure or learning platform that we've been involved in supporting. The early years learning platform is what we call it. It's something that we help to convene. It brings together different public sector system and public service teams that have the mandate for transformation in the early years to work together differently. The point is that we're working alongside and learning alongside community about what matters to them, and then shifting the practices and systems and structures to respond to that and enable that. And so it works on the 2 levels. It's scaled at a network level where we're bringing together multiple parts of the system that have influence over those kinds of things, but it also holds the space for the personal journey of the people involved actually trying to do that work, figure out, well, what does it mean to work at that scale, and where am I in that, and what difference does that make where I come from, what my positionality is, how courageous can we be together. So it's a structural systems network, and it's actually a courage network, I think, as well, where it kind of holds a bunch of folks in collaboration, both in a formal way and in a in a combined journey together. So the platform is a connecting point between the sort of tensions of the system and actually people in the system. And it helps us to move between those spaces. And it's been possible to do that because we've been supported through Indigenous practices that help us to understand different ways of thinking about the energy, the momentum, the flow of how systems works and how relationships work, and to be able to move between those. So we're just going to explore that briefly today through a few different perspectives. And I'm just really pleased to welcome everyone into the space and hand back to Riri to help us land into it. Thank you.
Hapai, tēnā tātou, awesome kōrero there, Penny. Now what we're going to do is, so there's some kōrero, unsure to how what everyone knows about Mauri. Mauri, to myself, is a life force essence that every living thing has. It's an energy that can be lifted with other positive energies. And so the energies I also believe is that it can be handed down from our tupuna. It can be handed down from atua. So there's different types of energies, a Mauri tau, a Mauri atua that can be grasped by anything living. And when we say living, it may be metaphoric as well, where marae or whare can have a Mauri, and it becomes that Mauri that we then are caretakers for. Example being for kaikaranga and a marae, there's a Mauri that's upheld in the whare, and that kaikaranga and the taumata kōrero then looks after and caretakes that Mauri within the whare. And it's important that that Mauri is cared for by all living, because those positive energies are then tranquilized and then gained almost like a power source. And so that's one form of Mauri. And when we talk about Mauri, also comes from our atua of Ranginui and Papatuanuku. So those are the just in simple forms as Mauri, and everyone has no doubt had that connection with the Mauri. It may be that you probably didn't know what that was, the energy that you're feeling, but that's what we're going to talk about right now in our breakout rooms. So in our breakout rooms, I'm going to ask if you can all go into the breakout rooms. The questions that we have is ko wai koe, so ko wai au, who am I, and no hea au, where am I connected to or where am I from? And then the last question is, Mauri to me and my workplace is, if you can add some examples of yourself and what you've connected to in Mauri. So again, Mauri to me and my workplace is, give some examples. So we're going to now go into our breakout rooms for us to share and connect with each other. Whakawhanaunga. Everyone's just coming back in now. How was the kōrero? How was the kōrero? Thumbs up or good? Everyone feeling everyone's Mauri through the cameras? It's doable, Ehama, it's doable. Hope you're feeling my Mauri. My Mauri meter's at a 5. 5 out of 5. Winning. I think we're all back. Looks like it. Well, here's hoping that everyone's found a connection with each other through Mauri, through the kōrero of Mauri. No doubt there'll be a further connection and further sessions of our Practice Foundation. Yeah, awesome to see everyone's come back and a lot of smiles. And good to see some familiar faces. E mihi ana kia tātou katoa. What we're going to do now is we're just going to hold a space. We're going to share amongst Angie, Aimee and Tanya. We were going to share some kōrero. And then we'll just get straight into it, actually. So I'm going to hand the rākau kōrero over to Angie, to give us some kōrero on your kaupapa. Angie?
Tēnā tātou a tuatahi me mihi awa ki a koe te tua hine mo te karakia me te mihi o te ata. Nō reira tēnā koe. Nei rā he mihi mahana ki a tātou katoa, ka tū te maunga hikurangi kia mihi atu ki o koutou maunga tapu o te ao. Nō reira he mihi nui nau mai haere mai I Wanganui a tātou te whānau o Aotearoa. Kia ora, everybody. I just want to acknowledge Riri for opening and holding the space with our karakia and a mihi, a greeting, our Indigenous greetings this morning. It's lovely to be online with you all this morning here in Aotearoa. I know we've got some different time zones happening. I'm Angie Tangari and I'm Ngāti Parau on my father's side, and I'm Pākehā on my mum's side. And I get the delight of working with all of these amazing people who are going to speak today, and alongside Penny at the Auckland Co-Design Lab. What I'm going to do is talk a little bit more about how Mauri is informing our system change practice, how our Indigenous knowledge here in Aotearoa is helping to develop the system change and transformational practices that we are using to create change and equity for whānau here in Aotearoa. Riri's done half my job for me, so thanks for that, Riri. She's already told you what Mauri is, so that's awesome. I just also want to acknowledge there's some people on the line that are probably better qualified to be speaking about this, but you've got me today, so I'll do my best about how it helps us with our practices. As Riri was saying, Mauri is the life force, or the essence of life that binds the body and spirit of a living or natural thing. It flows through all things: land, trees, whenua, water, river, mountains, rocks, and it transcends space and time. And it's held in individuals, in relationships, and collectively. The way that your Mauri is expressed can affect others, and the way that others express their Mauri can affect or can impact you. What Mauri is helping us to do in our practices here in Aotearoa is to understand how energy and well-being is connected, interdependent, and in some cases dependent. Mauri ora is life essence well-being, and when we say Mauri ora, that is when our life essence and our spirit, or our wairua, is flourishing. It's flourishing with potential, ideas, and connections. To illustrate how important it is to understand this connectedness, I might ask Lindsay to show my picture, that's okay. The most obvious example for me is the well-being of our Mother Earth, of Papa Tuanuku. So if Papa Tuanuku is not well, nobody can be well. So the planet must thrive, the whenua must thrive for us to be well. So that the concept of how incredibly important the connection of well-being between our taiao, our natural environment, our Earth Mother, and ourselves as human beings is a really good example of the connectedness, and why the relationship and the energy of the Earth Mother and ourselves as humans is really important. Thanks, Lindsay. You can stop sharing now. So what Mauri is really helping us to do in our practice is to give us some perspectives, some Indigenous perspectives on the way that we think about energy and relationships and connectedness. Mauri transcends time and space. So Mauri is on the planet in place across time. And it speaks to the seen and the unseen. And in systems work, I find that to be really, really helpful, to be attuning and connecting into the unseen. It has particular phases, and it helps us to understand the purpose of the phases of energy and the practices to shift them if we want them to be shifted. I'll just take a couple of minutes to talk about those, and then I'll talk about how we're applying it in the work, particularly that we've been doing as the lab, but also Aimee has been doing alongside Tanya. The three phases I want to talk about are, and Riri did touch on them, some of them, Mauri noho, Mauri tau, and Mauri oho. Mauri noho is a still, reflective, inactive phase. It's a very low energy phase. Mauri tau is a relaxed, balanced state where you can make considered decisions about what you need to be doing in that time. Mauri oho is a highly reactive, responsive state. And what these states help us to do is to think about, firstly, how is my Mauri, my energy, feeling in my body? What state might I be in? And it also helps us to to attune to what the energy across collectives and relationships might be. Why this is important is each of these states has a particular purpose. And what it tells us is why we might be in that state. So, for example, Mauri noho is a really interesting state for me, because a lot of our work that we do is high energy, high velocity, sort of working the system, putting a lot of energy into it. And what I've noticed about being more attuned to Mauri noho is that in the moments when you're noticing very low energy, it's an opportunity for you to reflect on why that might be. You must have a state of Mauri noho at some stage because you need to rest. And sometimes the system needs to rest as well. So that's how it's been helping us to think about and attune to, firstly, for myself, the inner. How is my energy feeling? Why might I be feeling that way? What's the purpose of this? Do I want to shift it? What am I attuning to across the system? What am I feeling? What am I hearing from the people that I'm working with? What am I seeing? Why might I be feeling or seeing that? What's the state of the collective energy? What's the state of the collective relationships? Why might they be in that state? Do we need to stay in this state for a little bit, or do we need to shift it? And so there are some really particular practices that we won't be able to go into today. But the first thing it does help us do is to attune and recognize energy in ourselves and across the collective and relationships. And then it does give us some tools to understand why that you might be in that state and what might we do to shift the state if we choose to. So that's what I wanted to korero about. Thanks, Celia. The 8 minutes, I want you fellas to know I did it in 8 minutes. Thank you, Riri.
Kia ora. That's
Kia ora
beautiful korero, Angie, and it's good that we when we're recognising those the Mauri, the different types of Mauri, how do we adapt to that? And no doubt, Aimee, you've probably got something that you'd love to add to that. I'll hand the rākau kōrero to you.
O tēnā koe, ngā mihi e te tuakana e Angie, me Riri, Motu o tino a tāhua ki kōrero i tēnei wā. Ko ai au, ko Aimee Hadrup tāku ingoa, he Pākehā hau. I reside, coming to you live from the lands of Te Kawero Maki in the mighty West Auckland in Tāmaki Makaurau. I lead our early years systems innovation work at the Southern Initiative, working really closely with Penny and Angie and a bunch of other amazing humans. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the early years platform is and sort of how we've been trying to create space for this inner and relational work of systems change through that platform. A little bit of background. So the stimulus for this really came because we were building these relationships with a raft of frankly pretty epic humans in lots of different parts of government. One of them is going to be speaking after me, spoiler alert. And we noticed that there was real alignment around the desire to shift towards more whānau-centred and locally led ways of working, that there was a really strong mandate for that, and every agency, it seemed, had a really ambitious strategy around how they wanted to close the equity gap by working differently, and people were struggling with the how and really trying to do that in isolation of each other. People were really keen, it seemed, to tackle some of this stuff together when you peel it back. there are some really common challenges that we all have to grapple with in order to make those kinds of shifts possible. Things like moving towards relational commissioning and reimagining what our systems track and measure and value. So we started convening people on a quarterly basis. And that's really been an opportunity to bring in what we're learning about how to make these kinds of shifts, to progress some of these collective, priority pieces of work together, but ultimately trying to show up in new ways and develop new ways of working that shift power more towards the whānau and communities that we serve. And I guess when we think about who's in this space, we share lots of common challenges, right? We know that to achieve the kind of shifts that we're all working really hard to make happen, we have to disrupt some really entrenched power dynamics and shift our kind of business as usual mental models. And there are some really gnarly organizational dynamics happening within the spaces that we work in. There's sort of degrees of chaos in any one of the organizations that we're working in. And as Penny talked about, and what came through really clearly in the last one of these sessions, is that the root of the complex challenges that we're trying to tackle here, at the root of that is colonization, it's intergenerational poverty, it's structural racism. And Louise Mara, as someone who's been a real teacher on this stuff around healing and systems work here in Aotearoa, talks about how we're working on trauma fields, really, and that's a fractal thing. So it shows up in our organizational dynamics, it shows up in the spaces that we work in, and it makes it a pretty challenging space to be in Māori-wise. An amazing colleague of ours, Dickie Humphreys, some time ago, shared on a Practice Foundation sessions, I believe, about how the system has Māori and we have Māori, and we have this illusion of disconnection that the kind of problem is out there, and we need to recognise that actually the spaces that we work in do deeply affect our own Māori, and it's an opportunity to kind of be real about that and what that looks like. So a little bit about what it looks like in practice for the platform. One of the things that we did when we first started convening, so the very first session, was creating space for people to think about what do they do to whakapiki te Māori, so what helps lift their Māori in this work. We just had some small kind of group conversations about that. And that just enabled people to connect on a deeper level and help to normalise the fact that these spaces we work in are really challenging, and that we need to be attending to our individual and collective well-being as a legitimate part of the work. So one of the things we've been really intentional about in every single one of our convenings is creating space for people to show up as fully human, to do some useful work and learning together, yes, but also just creating some breathing space in the chaos, with fellow travellers who are trying to do the same thing and build that network of trusted relationships so that we can be better together. And just on the kind of value of whanaungatanga in this work, one of our colleagues kind of talks about the platform as growing her phone a friend network, and my reflection is that strengthening that network of trusted relationships across the early years system has been one of the most powerful system and level interventions that we have. The practice of whanaungatanga is an intervention in and of itself. It's made a huge difference, I think, to our ability to collaborate on this stuff and to do the real meaningful work. And just on what Angie was talking about around attuning to each other and as a collective, Hotu Waka, which I think was the last Practice Foundation sessions, our amazing colleague Roy spoke to that, and you can check it out on the lab website, I'm sure, if you're not familiar, but it has so many applications, you know, but we've been using it a lot in the platform as an attuning framework, so a way for people to make sense of, you know, where they are right now, what that feels like for them, some of the tohu or the signs that are emerging that's important for us to pay attention to. It's giving us a language for navigating this kind of work together, which is really helpful. And just to kind of quickly introduce another concept I found really helpful is this notion of an island of sanity. So borrowing from Meg Wheatley, we're really intentionally trying to create an island of sanity for people to be real about what this takes and for us to be able to bring our full humanity. We're objectively living in pretty dark times, e te whānau, when you look at what's happening to the climate, to widening inequity, when you look at what is happening in Gaza right now, it's pretty easy to feel fatalistic and to slip into despair. And I'm speaking from my own experience here. I'm sure we've all had those like dark nights of the soul moments where it feels all quite hard. And so this notion of an island of sanity recognises that, yes, these are challenging times and we can still create spaces to do meaningful work together and restore a bit of sanity, spaces where we can co-regulate and create a bit of coherence. And dare I say it, bring a bit of joy as well. That's another thing that we've been really intentional about, bring a bit of levity. You can't underestimate the power of really good belly laugh, and to a kind of Angie has a very good online dance-off practice that she's been cultivating in these spaces too. So my provocation to you, I guess, is how are we creating islands of sanity in our public sector innovation work? And that brings me to the second thing is, you know, how are we creating spaciousness for ourselves and for each other? So we can't just be creating these nice spaces for our collaborators. We also need to be applying that to ourselves and our immediate kind of teammates, and to be a little bit vulnerable about that. For me, I know that shows up when, oh, I'm looking at the time and I'm nearly over I am slightly over time. I'll speed it up a little touch. Yeah, I can definitely see some warning signs when I know my Motu isn't in the best space, and just really paying attention to that and creating enough space for us to be human together and slow down a bit is a radical act. I know spaciousness in this work is a radical act. I'm going to just finish off with reading my little poem, if that's all right. If you could bring that up, Lindsay. So this is from the wonderful Margaret Wheatley in her recent book, Restoring Sanity. And, you know, it's a wondrous thing. It's a wondrous thing to know each other as humans being fully human. It's a wondrous thing to be able to restore sanity. It's a wondrous thing to awaken our human spirits. It's a wondrous thing to know all humans can be generous, creative, and kind. It's a wondrous thing to partner with life and spirit. It's a wondrous thing to experience uncertainty as inviting rather than frightening. It's a wondrous thing to create islands of sanity, places of possibility and refuge where the human spirit can thrive. Restoring sanity is joyful work. May we be intimate with this joy. Mauri ora kia tātou, kia whiua te rākau kia koe. Tanya.
Kia ora, everyone, and yeah, ngā mihi to my tuakana, Angie and Aimee. I feel quite privileged to be on a talking stage with you two, and I'm interested in this dance-off, Angie. Yeah, we can pick that up later. So tēnā koutou katoa I whānau mai I te taha o te awa o Waikato. He Pākehā me he tangata tiriti ahau, kei te noho o kei te whanganui atara Anaia, but Anaia, I'm in a little hallway in Auckland airport near the prayer room. It's very quiet yet it's got good Wi-Fi. Just heading to some hui later on in the day. So yeah, greetings from Auckland. I'm the program lead for early years in the National Public Health Service in Te Whatu Ora, specifically in the health promotion part of that. And was invited to talk today to reflect on my experience being part of the platform that Aimee introduced. So I'll just dive into that. And thinking about what I've been asked to reflect on today, the thing that jumped to mind first was this idea of like pace, urgency, and patterns. I've been a public servant my entire adult career, and I'm sure it doesn't come as a surprise, or it's like a really familiar feeling to everyone on this line, that the system has its own forces and patterns and status quo, and we often feel like day to day, week to week, there's all these urgencies. And my colleague who I'm with this morning was calling it manufactured urgencies this morning when we were chatting on the plane, because every day we have these urgent things to do, but what feels actually urgent, like in our puku and in our heart, are the things that Aimee was talking to before. And so the platform and even the foundation sessions like this, to me, are a real time to carve out that space to do that deep thinking and to think about to center those real urgencies and issues that are keeping us awake at night, and pull away from that treadmill of public service urgencies, because all those dark night things that are very real are pointing to the need for a fundamentally different approach. It almost feels like we just sometimes need to burn it down and start again. But how do we even begin to imagine, or have the space to imagine, those new things when we're so stuck in that day-to-day urgency and pace? And so in New Zealand at the moment, the health system is sort of years into this well-needed system reform, and we seem to be on the same page about what we want. We want a tidity-focused system, but when we think about moving from that rhetoric into reality, that's when we sort of seem to get stuck. And in that time of change, which we're all in the health system at the moment, the pull of that status quo and those patterns seem particularly strong. So recognising that the flow of public service can feel like a freight train, being a part of the early years platform has really helped us to create space to shift gears off that freight train and sit with others in a parallel flow. And it's not about trying to think up something new and then plug it back into the system. It's about learning, sitting, reflecting together with others who are wrestling with the same issues. So more practically for us, that's looked like really getting practical application of some of those tools, like that Aimee mentioned. Hotu Waka is one that we're upskilling in, and then we're taking that back to others in our wider health promotion whānau to try and, convert more to this cause of attunement and noticing and being a bit more spacious and still. As part of the platform, we've had Hoa Haere, who are people who are specifically skilled in that, who sort of walked alongside us and helped us build our kete of that practice, which for us and our team has been, kind of life-changing. So in the here and the now, it feels like a very unsettled time globally and nationally. We sit between the terrace and Lambton Quay, and every day there's a hikoi, there's a march, there's a protest, and it's globally, Gaza, there's fires burning, and we can't be immune to that just because we're public servants. And sometimes it feels like this tension or this pull of you have to be, we're reminded to be neutral and serve the government of the day. And, that's what we signed up for as public servants, but you can't suspend your values and you can't suspend what's burning in your puku. And so at times like this year and right now, places like the early years platform seem especially important, because it's a place to pause, to go deep and, notice your humanity and realize that who you are does matter, and you need to be conscious of that, because that's what helps you do your job. So it's a time of reflecting on your own whakapapa, your own privileges, your own trauma, and to sit in that island of sanity, to be attuned and to think about who you are as an individual, but also who you are in the system and what you need to do to ensure that you're safe, but not too safe, because we don't want to just be bumping along a little padded cell of safety. We need a bit of ferocity and a bit of unsafeness, but getting that balance right so that we can drive that change that is required, and to notice when things are feeling counterintuitive, what you can do and how to stop and be more spacious in that. And if you can pull up my pic now, this was the picture I chose. It's of our, these are one of our partner organisations. So in our team, along with Hayley and Pauline, who are sitting next to me in the airport, we work with 12 absolute amazing, innovative, leading groups from around the Motu in New Zealand who are doing amazing things in the early years. This is Rawinia Hohua, Auntie Ellen and Roy Mata Harmon are one of our partners. They're in doing amazing stuff all throughout the King Country. And something I've noticed over the last few months or so is, as I got busy and as my career progressed and I got pulled into all these different things, I was deprioritizing my catch-ups with our community partners. I might duck out, oh, I'm too busy today, and let others in the team. And more recently, I've noticed that what I need to do to whakapiki my own Māori is to never deprioritize my catch-ups with people like this and our partners, because every time I leave catch up with them, I feel inspired, I feel connected, I feel re-energized to sit in that system of, the system of being a public servant. And they always, without a doubt, and especially these three wahine, give you a gift of something that you never would have thought of. So they're running it's not a service, they're running a thing, they call it kanapu, and it's a safe space for mama and whānau, and it's really responsive to what mama in their rohi are needing, and it's around creating healing journeys and individual and collective empowerment in that intergenerational space. So I thank them for letting me share their picture today. I think the joy that just radiates from that photo, you can imagine what being in a room or a virtual room with them feels like. You just leave any interaction with them, as they say, standing in your own golden light. So I thank them for that every time I catch up with them, and thank you for the opportunity to share my experience of being a public servant today. Tēnā koutou.
Tēnā koe, Tanya. Tēnā koutou katoa. I whakaputa i ētahi whakaro. E mihi ka tika ana ki a koe, Angie, Aimee, Tanya. I te mea koe nā kōrero, he kōrero, mai te ngākau, mai I o mahi. Ko mahi ko tukuna ki te ao, no reira, e mihi ana ki a koutou. What we're going to do now is we're gonna give an opportunity for everyone to be able to share some kōrero in breakout rooms. So we'll give about in breakout rooms of 3 to 4, just for a few minutes, so that you're able to have the opportunity to share amongst each other about what we've just discussed with our three key kōrero. So we'll just our background people will start to put you into breakout rooms for you to discuss this kōrero. If anyone has any, and then we'll come back and share more as a whole rōpū. Ka pai e homa? Safi, make sure you share some kōrero. Don't be shy, bub. If you had a good conversation, thumbs up. Yeah, love it. Right. So I'm sure everyone's back by now. Just while we're waiting for everyone else to come back. If you had any gems or any whakaro that you'd like to share, please add it in the chat, or add it in the Google Doc that Pavan has just added. Add in the doc some whakaro or some gems that you'd love for us all to see. Yeah, just click on the button there and then you'll be directed to it. In the meantime, so no doubt everyone's probably got some beautiful kōrero that they all had a good discussion in the breakout rooms. What we're going to do is we're going to just get some reflections with Lily. If is Lily on yet?
I'm here.
Bye, Lily. I'm just going to give you the rākau kōrero for you to share some reflections.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Angie, Tanya, and Aimee for your presentations and sharing your insights and thoughts, and really to the whole New Zealand team for this gift that you're bringing to us today. I'm really feeling the care and the joy with which you all share space together, and just really, yeah, huge gift to be able to be a part of this. And there's a lot of beautiful things that we shared in our breakout session, and also that throughout the time today. I think something I'm really sitting with is the notion that spaciousness is a radical act in these times. It's where I am in Vancouver in the Solutions Lab, which is an innovation unit within the city, and working on systems transformation across different challenges. Something that we hear often is that there's just not enough time to actually to do the work that we want to be doing or need to be doing in terms of deepening relationships to community, to place, to working on repair, to working on addressing these challenges that are huge and have, there's a lot of challenges that demand urgency from us. And then on top of that, this manufactured urgency about things that feel like they're kind of keeping us on one track that is taking us kind of further and further away from actually trying to do this deeper change. So yeah, I've just been thinking about, you know, just these, the need, and that's kind of where a lot of my work has been right now, is just kind of focusing on creating the space for people to slow down or to stop and reflect and think and connect with one another. And so yeah, just how things aren't necessarily meant to be met with more urgency, but oftentimes it's that counter where it's meant to be met with slowing down and resting and taking time to ground ourselves and orient towards what does feel joyous to us, what needs supporting. So yeah, just some kind of key reflections there, and again, really grateful for this gift to share with all of you, and really we would love to hear what some other folks have to say about what's coming up for them.
Tēnā koe, Lily. Thank you very much for sharing. I'm going to now ask Ingrid. Ingrid, if you're available to share your reflections on how it affects you.
Kia ora, thank you so much for all the shares. Really quite touching, and you know, it made me think, and I was in a great breakout room with Kimmy and I've forgotten who else it was, but it was really good to share. How do we actually, you know, it's fantastic to come and hear this sharing at a level that doesn't always get translated in systems. And I work in, you know, in a whole range of systems, but, you know, particularly in economic related systems, in health related systems, and in education systems. And so what came up for me is the value of these shares is so poignant, and yet what we value inside systems is often totally ignores these sorts of ideas. So in our breakout group, we had some really good conversation about how do we reflect these shares in the measures of what we value inside systems. And you know, we sometimes relegate those things to values, but values are not valued. And so I guess the question is, what does this mean for the way that we measure what's happening in systems and change? How do we measure that change in systems? And how could we reflect a more humanized view of what's happening in those systems? And I know for a lot of the people on this call, that's something that you're all grappling with and that you're doing amazing work in. And I guess I'd love to see, you know, how that can be shared more broadly in some of the systems where that hasn't quite reached. So I think, you know, I love the idea of the radical act, and, you know, I think maybe also spreading that radical act into some of the ways that we frame what is valued in those systems. Thank you.
Ka pai tēnā kaurua, Lily and Good, for your sharing. We've still got a few more minutes. I'm going to ask the brother Eruini, as I noticed that he had a few comments in support of some of the kōrero throughout our session today. So I'm going to ask Eruini, he whakaaro au, hei apiti ata ki wēnei kōrero?
Kia ora tātou. Tuatahi māku, he mihi atu kia tātou kua whakarite i wēnei hui. Kia tātou kua tāpiri ngā kōrero mō wēnei kaupapa. Yeah, just like to acknowledge everybody that's helped to facilitate this space, everybody that's added kōrero to our discussion this morning. I am definitely inspired by a lot of the kōrero that's happened this morning. In particular, some of the spaces that resonated with me were in regards to, and this was something that was brought up in our small discussion groups, being conscious of ourselves and the Mauri and the state of Mauri that we're currently in, taking note of where we're sitting in terms of our energy input and our energy output, so that we're able to contribute to the work that we're engaged with. And, you know, some of the factors that we take into consideration, or some of the factors that we don't take into consideration, can really affect our ability to do that work. For example, taking time to take our time. I forget who said it, but one of our great Maori linguistics teachers here in Aotearoa talks about kia tere te ātahaere. So be aware of, you know, be in a hurry to take your time. And in that kōrero, in that proverb, in that saying, it just gives us a prompt to take a breath, and it's okay to take a breath. And being able to cultivate a space like those islands of sanity is surrounding yourself with individuals and sharing mātauranga like this, so that we as a collective can remember to take a breath with each other, and that it's safe to take a breath, that we don't always have to be diving deep into the work and sort of, for lack of better expression, kind of losing consciousness and blacking out in some of the mahi, in some of the heavy work that we do, because working in system change it can't be done overnight. And this might be an expression of my own personality, but I like trying to get things done quickly. And I'm learning in this new space that I'm in that that's not always the best solution, or not always the best approach to some of these kaupapa, to some of this work that is actually taumaha, but also really rewarding at the same time, when done correctly. Kia ora.
Tēnā koe, bro. Tēnā koe, Iriwini. E mihi kātika ana ki a tātou katoa, ko rarau mai, ko rarame mene i wainganu i a tātou, i tēnei hononga o tātou. Me mihi kātika i te mea ko whai wāhi koutou, te kōrero tahi, te hono tahi, te mauri tahi, hoki mai, ki tēnei mauri ko tahi Practice Foundation. So me mihi kātika ki a tātou katoa. What have we got next month? If you think this was a good session, wow, we've got some more in store. Next month in May, we have some kōrero based on te tiriti perspectives. A special guest from Debbie Goodwin from Tūhoi Te Whakatohea, Alex Barnes, he Pākehā ia, and we've got Darren Oi. The three key kai kōrero will be present in our next May session, followed by some other epic kōrero that will follow by each month. To wrap us all up, thank you very much for sharing your time today and sharing kōrero about Mauri. Mauri is instilled in us whether we like it or not, negative, positive, all of it. Te katoa, one thing that to probably that we add in our daily mahi for healthy families is our Mauri mita. Real simple one, Mauri mita, 1 to 5, 5 being the highest Mauri, and that's what we share for our whakawhanaunga when we join up every week. So e mihi ana ki a tātou I runga I tēnei kōrero, tēnei kaupapa Mauri, a Mauri tū, Mauri ora ki a tātou katoa. We'll finish off with our karakia to close off our session. Ko te Mauri o wēnei kōrero ka whakairi ake ki ngā pātū o ia whare. Kia tīkina anō ai, a tōna wā, kia tūturu o uta, kia tūturu o tai, tūturu whakamaua, kia tēnā, haumie, huie, tai ki. Tēnā rā tātou, hei kona.
Kia ora, Riri.
Kia ora, Riri.
Kia
Ka kite
ora.
koutou. Yeah, Riri.